Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about what to do when you go on a trip and you're cursed with blue skies the entire time, not a cloud to be seen. Hello and welcome to Luminar Coffee Break. I'm Angela Andrieux and today we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, sky replacement. So recently I went on a trip to Sedona, Arizona, one of the most magical and beautiful places on planet Earth. And while we'd hoped to have some stormy weather and some cloud systems moving through, we had gorgeous, clear skies the entire time. And we kind of joked that it's the curse of photographers when you go someplace on this possibly once in a lifetime trip and you don't get what you were looking for. So this is one of the shots that I captured early one morning in Sedona. You can see it's beautiful, the light is amazing. And the best we had as far as clouds went were this little tiny puffs over here. You can see a little bit behind these trees. But the sky is really boring. And it drove me crazy because I really wanted to have those natural skies. And I know that's something that a lot of you as photographers can identify with as well. So that brings us to the dilemma, do we keep the natural sky or do we replace it? And in this instance, I'm going to go ahead and replace the sky with one of my own skies that I captured at another time because I want this work to be 100% mine. I want to take a moment and say hello to Eden, Joseph, Harry. So glad you guys are joining us today. And if you have any questions as we go through, pop your questions into the chat pod and I'll do my best to get those answered for you. Let's dive in. So I'm going to do a couple of quick enhancements to this image just to give it a bit more contrast, balance out the exposure. I'll start with Enhance AI. Bring up that Accent AI quite a bit and you'll notice how that's adding some nice contrast, popping the color, doing some really good things. Then we'll go down to our Structure AI and I'm going to pull that up, give it a little bit more mid-tone contrast and clarity. Kind of improves the appearance of detail and also darkens some of the darkest areas and just makes that detail really come to life and gives it depth. From there, what I want to do is go down to my Sky AI. So like I said, I want to make this image 100% my own. Because I wasn't able to capture the natural sky while it was there or the natural sky was boring, I'm going to go down to Sky Selection. I'm going to go into a section that I call My Favorite Skies. And these are a handful of my own skies that I've put in to Luminar AI. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one here. Let's load it up and see what we get. All right. Now that actually looks pretty good. Our direction of light is roughly correct. This area here is off in shadow, so that dark cloud over here doesn't really conflict. We've got this nice bright spot here that kind of corresponds with the light hitting the peak. And I think that looks really good. We can adjust it a little bit with our sky orientation. Click on that sky position and that's going to bring up this gradient. I like to spread that out a little bit and pull that down, and that gives a nice seamless blend at the horizon. You want to make sure all those areas around your horizon are perfectly masked, and in this case the AI did a really good job. I'm going to go ahead and close up that gradient. If you need to, if the direction of the sky calls for it, or the direction of the light rather, you can always flip that sky around. So if the light was coming from the opposite direction, that might make more sense. For this particular photo, we don't need to do that. And you can always adjust this horizontal position and see how that sky, those clouds move across the image. So I think that looks pretty great. We can then go down to our scene relighting. Add a little bit more of that relight strength, and you'll see how that's toning down some of the shadows here to match this cloud and the color of the light that's coming from the sky. We can also adjust the saturation, and you'll see how that's just very subtly changing how the foreground interacts with that new sky. Let's go down to our sky adjustments and do a couple of extra things here. I'm going to bring up my atmospheric haze because to me that usually just makes things look a little bit more natural. And you'll see how it kind of lightens it up and it gives that appearance of a bit of haze that I think our eyes are really used to seeing. And to me, that looks far more natural than it did. We can also brighten it up a little bit because it was early morning and it wasn't quite so gloomy looking. I want to go ahead and give it a little bit more appearance of brightness. And that's looking really, really good. Now let's take a look here at our before and our after. We've really changed the look and feel of this image, but I want to make a couple more subtle changes. First, I want to go up to our color tool and down into HSL, we're going to work a bit with our luminance. I'm going to darken down those blues, just make that blue sky a little bit more rich. I also want to darken down the greens. because what I'm seeing here is this path that goes through the woods and up to this peak. And so these trees off to the side and some of this dirt on the right and the left are a bit distracting. So I've darkened that down a little bit. The last thing I want to do is go down to my dodge and burn. And we're just going to subtly darken these areas over here to really draw our viewer down this path. So I'm going to choose darken from dodge and burn. Adjust my brush size a bit bigger. Make sure that's a nice soft brush. I'm going to bring that strength up maybe a little bit. Actually, I'm going to bring it down a little lower. And then I'm going to start brushing in over these areas just to go ahead and darken this up a little bit. And what we're really trying to do is draw our viewer's eye straight down this path. So I'm using a pretty heavy brush stroke right now. And the reason I'm doing this is because we can always back it off a little bit, but I want to make sure we get the effect we're looking for here. So that's pretty good, and that's really made that path stand out. Let's turn off the dodge and burn and then turn it back on again. And you can see how that really subtly brings you back into that path. Now, if you feel you went a little bit overboard, you can always grab that overall amount and back that off to what I hope to see. Now, I know not everybody wants to replace the sky in a photograph, especially when you're trying to preserve the memory of a trip. And it really comes down to, for me, am I creating a memory snapshot or am I wanting to create a piece of art? And in this instance, I'm okay with replacing the sky because I'm creating art and I'm making it what I want it to be. So there's two different schools of thought there. It's up to you which one you guys choose. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and got a little bit of inspiration of what you can do with your own travel photos. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give us a thumbs up here on YouTube. And if you have any other questions, pop them into the comments below. We'll get those answered for you. Want to thank you for spending a bit of your time with me today and wish you a wonderful rest of the day. See you next time.